Have you ever noticed that you become a slightly different person when you switch languages? Maybe you're more formal in your second language, more direct in your first. Or maybe certain emotions feel harder to express when you're not speaking the language you grew up with. It's not your imagination. And it's not just about vocabulary. When you switch languages, your brain doesn't simply swap out one set of words for another. Something deeper is happening. Something that changes not just how you speak, but how you think, what you remember, and even how you feel in that moment. So what's actually going on up there when you make that switch? Let's start with something you've probably experienced but never fully understood. When you speak your native language, it's effortless. The words arrive before you've consciously chosen them. You're not translating in your head. You're not rehearsing sentences. You're just talking. But in your second or third language, there's often a pause, a moment where your brain seems to be searching through a filing cabinet. And during that search, something fascinating happens. Your brain isn't just looking for the right word. It's actively blocking the wrong ones. Think of it like this. All the languages you know are turned on at the same time, competing for attention. Your native language is usually the loudest. So when you want to speak in another language, your brain has to suppress that dominant voice while amplifying a quieter one. This suppression takes effort. It's why switching languages can feel tiring, especially if you're doing it frequently throughout the day. Your brain is essentially playing referee between two teams that both want to be on the field. But here's where it gets interesting. The part of your brain doing this work isn't a language center. It's your executive control network. The same system you use to focus on a task, ignore distractions, or stop yourself from saying something impulsive. This is why bilinguals often show advantages in tasks that require attention control or mental flexibility. Switching languages is, in a sense, a workout for the parts of your brain that manage complex thinking. Now, you might be wondering, does this mean your brain is doing twice the work when you know two languages? Not exactly. For people who are highly fluent in multiple languages, the switching process becomes more automatic over time. The effort decreases, but it never fully disappears. There's always some level of management happening behind the scenes, even if you're not consciously aware of it. And this brings us to something even more subtle. The language you're speaking doesn't just change which words you use. It can actually shift your perspective. Research has found that bilinguals sometimes make different decisions depending on which language they're using. They might take more risks when thinking in their second language, or feel less emotional intensity when discussing difficult topics in a language that isn't tied to their earliest memories. Why does this happen? One explanation is that each language carries its own cultural framework, its own set of associations. When you learned your native language, you were also absorbing values, social norms, and ways of seeing the world. Your second language came later, often in different contexts, maybe in a classroom or a new country. So when you switch languages, you're not just switching vocabulary, you're activating different networks of memory and meaning. Think about a memory from your childhood. Now imagine trying to describe it in a language you learned as an adult. Something feels slightly off, doesn't it? Like you're watching the memory through a different filter. That's because memory and language are deeply intertwined. The language you were speaking when something happened becomes part of how that memory is stored. When you switch languages, you're also shifting which memories are most easily accessible. This is why some people report feeling like they have multiple versions of themselves. The version that speaks one language might be more playful. The version that speaks another might be more reserved or analytical. These aren't separate personalities. They're different facets of the same person, shaped by the context in which each language was learned and used. But here's the reframe that might change how you think about all of this. Language switching isn't a burden your brain has to manage. It's a form of cognitive flexibility that you've trained yourself to have. Every time you switch, you're practicing the ability to see things from more than one angle, to hold multiple frameworks in mind at once, to navigate between different ways of expressing the same idea. That's not a glitch in how your brain works. It's a feature. And the more you switch, the better your brain gets at it. Not just at switching languages, but at the broader skill of mental flexibility itself. So the next time you catch yourself mid-switch, that brief moment of mental effort, you might see it differently. Not as a sign that you're not fluent enough, but as evidence that your brain is doing something remarkable. It's managing multiple complex systems at once, deciding in real time which one to amplify and which one to quiet, all while keeping the conversation flowing naturally. That's not simple. That's sophisticated. If this kind of thing interests you, there's a lot more to explore about how our brains handle language, memory, and thought. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more. And if you speak multiple languages, I'm curious. Have you noticed this shift in yourself? Leave a comment if you'd like to share what it feels like from your perspective.